What's up guys, it's Alex here, back for another video, and in this one we're going to be doing another Heroes 3 tier list. So this tier list is going to be of tier 6 creature dwellings. So similar to the tier 7 creature dwelling tier list that I did, this one we're going to be ranking tier 6 creature dwellings. And we're going to be considering things like how easy or difficult they are to take, how good the units themselves are, how easy or difficult it is to build a power stack of them, and just the overall utility, how much usefulness you're actually going to get out of those units. So all of those factors are going to be considered in this ranking. And again, as any tier list, this is opinions, so don't hate me if I rank your Don't hate me if I rank your favorite creature, tier 6 creature, lower than you think, but do let me know in the comments below if you would rank something differently and why, etc. Alright, so let's just go ahead and get into this. Number 1, so the highest tier that I'm going to choose is going to be the Wyvern Nest. So, a couple of reasons. Wyvern themselves are not the toughest or the best tier 6 creature. However, this is one of the only two creatures that actually synergizes with creature banks on the map, right? So when you get hives as well as wyvern dwellings as fortress, that's really good, right? And the wyvern give you additional wyvern growth in your town, the wyvern nest, and you can also upgrade them to monarchs, right? So all of those things combined, it's very common to have a wyvern power stack. You can upgrade them to monarchs, and they are easy to take. They are basically risk-free. You will be losing a couple of nulls when you take them, but other than that, you pretty much cannot die when taking them, whereas in some of these you can. So all of those factors, even though the unit itself is pretty weak for a tier 6, I think the dwelling deserves the top spot here. Alright, tier 2, we are going to have Nyx. Nyx are really awesome. They're probably one of my favorites out of this entire list as far as the creatures themselves go. I was actually debating on putting them where the Wyvern are, but the fact that they don't synergize with a creature bank, there's no creature bank that actually gives you Nyx, that, automatically makes the Wyvern better. However, Nyx are really good creatures. The banks are easy to take, or I mean the dwelling is easy to take. You don't risk losing anything. And the Nyx, especially if you can get upgraded Nyx warriors, are really, really useful. And as Cove, they are super useful because for one, you can either build a power stack of them, or they can also help you take hives because they're really tanky. Their ability reduces the attack of whatever they're fighting. They ignore 30% attack for the regular Nyx and 60% for the upgraded Nyx. So that makes them really good in hives, and as Cove, you really need a way to take hives because you want to take hives because that's the only creature bank that you can actually take that does not give you movement penalty in the swamp, right? And without Nyx, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough to take hives because you usually start as Cassiopeia, and you usually have the Oceanids as your power stack, which just melts away in hives, right? So usually you get a lot of utility out of this as Cove. And as I mentioned before, you can even build a power stack of them, and they can also be tough to deal with even in the final fight for your opponent because of that ability to ignore whatever they're fighting attack. Okay, next, we are going to rank the Cyclop Cave. So, as far as the Cyclop Cave goes, it is the other one of the two on this list that actually synergizes with another bank, that is the Pickets, right? So, as the Wyvern Nest synergizes with Hives, the Cyclop Cave synergizes with Pickets. They are good. It's common to have a Cyclop power stack if you get a decent number of Pickets, and, of course, if you can build them as Stronghold, it's, going to help you that much more. However, The reason that I have them lower on the list is because the build path for them is kind of awkward. So in a lot of cases, you want to build behemoths as stronghold, and if you build behemoths, you usually kind of have a hard time building both Cyclops and behemoths because the build paths are different. So for the behemoths, you need Cliff Nest and then Behemoth Crag, and for the Cyclop Cave, you need Orc Tower and then Ogre Fort, and then you can build the Cyclop Cave. And when you combine that with having to upgrade the Goblins on day 1 and Wolf Raiders on day 2, which is very common, you kind of are limited in going for one of them, because while it is technically feasible to build both of them, even if you go for the Goblin upgrade and the Wolf Raider upgrade day 1 and 2, you can still build both Behemoths and Cyclops by day 7. In that case, you would have to skip Mage Guild, which is not ideal. It's not that common to skip Mage Guild in your main town. So for that reason, it's not that common to see people build both Behemoths and Cyclops on week 1, and that is the reason that they are lower on the list. You can take these without risking anything either, so they're also quite easy to take. But yeah, because the build path is a bit awkward for most of these, most of the tier 6 dwellings, when you build them, that synergizes with the build path for the tier 7 creature of that town, but not this one. Okay, and next I'm going to rank Manticores and Efreet. So, both of these are here for kind of different reasons, so I'll mention the Manticores first. So Manticores are also quite easy to take. You lose just a few troglodytes when you take them. They are relatively easy to build, and while the creatures are weak themselves as a tier 6 creature, you can also portal them in your dungeon town. So if you don't have any dragon caves, you can still viably go for Manticore or Scorpicore power stack. And Scorpicores have that nice ability of the paralyzing venom, and they're also really fast, so they can give you first move. So for those reasons, their utility is pretty decent. You could build a power stack of them, even though it's not as common, but if you can get the Scorpicores, they can help you with speed, they can help you with first move in pickets, for example, as well. So they are relatively decent as kind of a power stack if you can get a few of their dwellings. Now, Efreet are much better as a tier 6. They're really good. Their utility is awesome, especially for Inferno. They give you first move in pickets. They help you take hives. They help you with conces as well. And if you can get Efreet Sultans, you can arm a bomb. You can usually get first move over just about anything because they'll have speed 13. And they have that fire shield ability. And if you can get a few of their dwellings and you can build a power stack of Efreet Sultans, that can be really nasty as well. So really good creatures, fire immune as well. So I do really like Efreet Sultans as creatures, but the problem here is that the dwelling is relatively difficult to take. You do need to have at least advanced archery, and I actually recommend having expert archery, but you would be vulnerable to morale on round 1 because you're usually going to be taking them on Koth, and you are not going to have tactics in most cases. So for that reason, they're a little bit lower on the list. Their utility is good, the unit itself is good, but the dwelling itself is probably the most difficult on the list to take. All right, the next one, we're going to have Cavaliers and Unicorns. And these units are both really good. Cavaliers, both Cavaliers and Unicorns, they have a really good utility. Cavaliers, they do have, they give you first move in pickets. They can help in hives. If you can get champions, that also helps you, and you can get a free champion upgrade in stables as well if you find them. The Unicorns are also really good. They can help you in pickets, can help you in hives, and War Unicorns are really beefy. So both of these have good HP, good stats. Unicorns also have that that blind ability and the magic resist aura. So really good. But the reason they're this low on the list is because they are pretty dangerous to take. So these you can die to morale, because you're usually going to be taking them with your archers, castle with the marksmen, and the unicorns with the grand elves, and you are going to be vulnerable to morale on round 1 if you don't have something to outspeed and cover, like if you don't go for the centaur upgrade as rampart, or you don't have something faster than the cavaliers as castle. So for that reason, they're a little bit lower on the list. And as far as building a power stack of these go, it is viable for both of them. But if you build as castle, if you build cavaliers, you're usually going for either cavaliers or angels, and it's more common to go for angels. But if you don't have any portals of glory, sometimes it can be viable. I have built champion power stacks, and they can be really useful. Rampart, a little bit more common to go for unicorn power stack if you get a few of their dwellings. But once again, while the units are good, while the power stack can be decent, the danger that you're facing in taking these, that's the reason that I have them this low on the list. Okay, and the last tier, we're going to have the last 3, which is going to be the Altar of Thoughts, the Black Knight Dwelling, Hall of Darkness, and the Golden Pavilion, the Naga Dwelling. Now, these units are good. They're different. So the Black Knights and the Nagas are actually the best tier 6 creature. The Black Knights, I believe, are the best in terms of their damage and stats, and their the Dread Knight's ability for double damage. But the Nagas, I believe, actually win in a one-on-one fight because of their no retaliation ability. And while the Nagas are slow, it is feasible to build power stacks of all of these. And also the magic elementals, or psychic elementals, they are pretty interesting. They're not necessarily that, they're not strong. They're probably the weakest in terms of their actual stats and damage and stuff, but they have interesting abilities. They have the multi-directional attack, no retaliation, and the magic elementals themselves have magic immunity, which can be difficult to deal with. It is really useful in certain situations. So if you're facing a fairy dragon break, magic elementals are a hard counter to that. If you can build those, I think I've actually done a fairy dragon break as conflux on like 6 magic elementals or something like that. It literally is a hard counter to fairy dragons. So in that situation, they can be useful. And also if you're facing something that you know is going to have good spell casting, they can also be pretty useful as well. And they can be difficult for your opponent to deal with, especially if they don't have the black orb. Now, the reason that these are kind of low on the list is because it's just not that common to see you build them, and not that common to see you actually build a power stack of these. So as far as the magic elementals go, they are situational. Like I said, they can be useful against magic, fairy dragons, but the magic elemental upgrade itself is a bit difficult since it requires level 2 Mage Guild, actually. The Hall of Darkness, it's not that common for you to actually build them as Necro, because you're usually going to be focusing your resources and your builds each day towards Mage Guild level 3. So for that reason, while they are really good and they can be really good as a power stack, it's just not that common to see you build a power stack of Black Knights or Dread Knights. And Nagas, again, while they are good, they are slow. And also, you're usually going to be focusing on something else. They are slow and they're also expensive. I have built power stacks of them before, but as tower, you're usually not going to be relying on a Naga power stack unless you need them for something specific, like maybe as meat in hives or something like that. Usually, you're going to be building giants if you need to build anything, and if you need to rely on your week 2 growth, it's probably not going to be Nagas, or you're not going to be super happy about having Nagas as your power stack, because that will probably mean that it's your last resort. As tower, you usually like to just snowball lamps, snowball genies, and or maybe build giants and or titans, right? So Nagas are kind of lower on the list there. Alright guys, well that's it for my tier 6 dwelling tier list. In the next video, I'm actually going to demonstrate how to take each of these tier 6 dwellings with each respective faction. So let me know what you think about this tier list. Let me know if your ranking would be different. Again, don't hate me for this. This is my own opinion, of course. And actually some of these, I was kind of, to be honest, I didn't feel good putting the, the Altar of Thought, the Black Knight Dwelling, and the Golden Pavilion on the last tier, but, somebody has to be at the bottom, right? So I felt like these are the least useful out of every other tier 6 dwelling, considering all of the factors that I've mentioned above. So, regardless, thank you guys for watching, and as always, check out my Twitch stream, link in the description below for more English-speaking Heroes 3 content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.